to my computer. Okay, so I would like to say welcome to everybody. Again, my name is Linda from the Upper Saddle River Library. I would like to thank Michael and Barbara from West Bergen Mental Health once again for coming for this program that we are now having. You were here, we were talking before, they were here before in June when we were going through a lot of different unrest. And I think once again, we're starting this new fall transition, be it younger kids, be it older kids, be it adults not going back into their buildings. I think we are once again in another ton of transition. I do have a few basic notes. So Michael will talk to the group for about 30 minutes and then we'll open it up for questions and answers. I am now going to mute everybody. Let's give everybody an all, except for Michael. You can speak for now. And again, I am recording this, so I'm going to hit speaker view, so you will not be on unless you are speaking. And you can unmute yourself. Once we're done with Michael is done speaking, you can either unmute yourself or we just ask that you be respectful for when the people are speaking. And if you do have a question and you don't want to necessarily ask it in the group, if you look at the bottom, there is the chat. You could chat just to me directly, chat just to me as the host. I will ask the question for you. And I believe that's it. So I will now have Michael take it away. And again, I'm guessing when people come in, I will mute them as well.
Sure. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Linda. We appreciate the invitation. Again, I can't believe it was June that we were here. Feels like we were just here together. Thank you for the invitation. Know that West Bergen Mental Health Care, located in Ridgewood with Children's Center in Ramsey. We have about 250 staff and we'll treat north of 3,000 clients this year in terms of lives that we'll touch. Our partnership with you and the other libraries is really important. I think that as we all sort of redefine and rethink how we can get our message out there and how we can essentially help each other, these kind of meetings on Zoom and evening meetings that bring us all together, just a huge help. So thank you for the invitation. And pre-apologies, by the way, for inevitably during this hour, you'll hear my dog Lucy bark. She will, particularly if someone goes by that looks like they shouldn't be on what she considers to be her sidewalk, she will certainly bark. So pre-apologies for that. Thank you again. And in thinking about how to kind of approach tonight, we started to think through how the world continues to change and it continues to evolve in some ways. And in other ways, it feels like we're just about where we were when we were all together in June here on Zoom at the Upper Saddle River Library. So it's really a challenging time. In many ways, that the demarcation of school starting feels like something should be changing, feels like the summer is ending, and it is. But it really is a challenging one, as particularly in the school environments, both grammar, middle, high school, college, where the rules sort of keep changing. We literally by the day know just yesterday, the New York City schools bounced back pushed their start date back several days. So literally as we each sort of scan both the news overall and also what is particular to you and your particular school or your particular situation, we're all kind of getting used to the fact that we have to be open to change in a rapid and fast way and become flexible in a way that we really never have before, particularly in schools. I mean, think about the pace at which a university makes decisions, and even a public school. The schedule that is put together, it's a year ago that these schedules are put out. And if you want to make a change, historically, it would take 44,000 committees and 89 votes, and there would be months of discussion. Now, we may change by next Friday, where we have to take in the data, pivot, and change. And so that puts a lot of stress on you all. It puts a lot of stress on us. It puts a lot of stress just on all kinds of folks. I would like to pause, though, and really a moment, what I call sort of a moment of empathy for those leaders that are out there. I really do believe that the school leaders, be it public school, private school, college, whatever that is, people are really working hard. I know a number of superintendents personally, and I can tell you that they are working 7 days a week, 12 and 14 hours a day to try to wrap their thoughts around this and to try to figure it out. And so lots of critiques going around, and certainly some well-deserved, some not. But I do think that it's fair and appropriate to sort of pause and say, we really do wish those individuals well. And I am feeling empathy for them and feeling that I really understand that they're doing the best that they can. I just think that sort of levels the playing field. It puts us all kind of in a different emotional space as well, where we're not sort of coming in as the critiquer and as the push person, quite the opposite. Apologies for that, by the way. So, quick reminder, by the way, we did talk about this in June, but I do want to just remind you, as I remind every group that we've been speaking to, just 3 or 4 basics as it relates to your own self-care and your own stress. First of all, back to basics is what we say. So we're eating well, we are exercising to the extent that we can, we're sleeping as well as we can, and we're drinking, hopefully, water and non-alcoholic beverages best that you can. Really, what we're looking for here in this particular focus is knowing that we exist in our bodies. And so everybody, whether it be ourselves, whether we're dealing with our 12-year-old or 8-year-old or our 25-year-old, reminding ourselves that we need to really take care of the bodies that we live in. It's very hard to talk about mental health and very hard to treat mental health if the body is not centered and the body is not doing what it needs to do. So quick reminder there. We're also reminding you to limit your news intake. Very important topic, much easier said than done, by the way. But as we think about news coming in, literally scary information that comes in changes the way that you think about things. It fires off chemicals in your brain that make it challenging to be balanced and challenging to be centered. And so the way to mitigate that is to lower the amount of news that you have coming in. So that would be a little bit of news in the morning, a little bit in the afternoon. I'm not a fan of the 11 o'clock news. I just don't think that's a great idea for folks to take in that information, try to process it, have those chemicals fire in your brain, and then expect your brain to shut off 35 minutes later as you try to get to sleep. It just typically isn't a great thing. Limiting your social media to the extent that you can would be helpful. This is a tough one. Know that actually those chemicals in that process are highly correlated with some significant disorders, post-traumatic stress disorder, and some of the other stress disorders, depression, anxiety. So I'm really asking you to lower your amount of news intake and lower essentially that scary information that's coming in. And we're asking you to socially connect. This is a great example. I'm preaching to the choir here tonight because you all have logged on to the Upper Saddle River Library Zoom meeting to try to connect both with the information that we're sharing with you, but really also with each other. And in so doing, we have a sense of connection and a sense of connectivity that really does help mitigate some of the stress as we kind of go forward. Couple concepts to think about as we move forward, and these are designed, initially designed for children, so grammar, middle, high, but really we've extended the model and are now thinking about it certainly with college kids and, by the way, with ourselves. So what we're looking for and suggesting you consider is what we call a summer review. So this is your process of kind of sitting together, either as a family, if that's appropriate and that works for you, one-on-one with your son or your daughter. Perhaps it's just you and your partner or your spouse, or maybe it's just you and a friend. We're looking for, how did the summer go? Taking that moment of stepping back. I know earlier in our informal chat, Barbara Hand from the West Bergen team mentioned that she and her friends were talking about how we haven't really absorbed what all this means. What's gone on? What does this mean? How does this impact on our lives? And this summer review process really helps us take a step back and essentially assess, evaluate, measure what went well. What do you think went well over the summer? What can you celebrate? That we thought it was going to be a dreadful summer at the beginning. We were really scared about A, B, and C. And interesting. We found a way to take some time together, maybe not our traditional vacation, down to the beach, but maybe we did day trips, or what did you do that worked? So what can we celebrate together that worked? Did anything surprise us this summer? So think about it. Think about it for a moment as you went through the summer. Did anything surprise you this summer? Did something go better or worse? Did something come to you that you didn't expect? What areas didn't go so well? As we certainly as we evaluate the summer, both ourselves and with our children and with each other, what didn't go well, and what can we learn from that moment? So did we not quite have enough to do? Was there not enough structure? Was there some anxiety that kind of flared up in our households that we need to sort of mitigate? What can we learn from that? And what can we do differently as we go forward? That kind of self-assessment not only provides ourselves with a sense of mastery, and believe it or not, a sense of control over what's going on in our world. Life doesn't feel so scary. I don't know why the phone is ringing so much tonight. Life doesn't feel so scary when we're assessing ourselves. And so we have a sense of control, a sense of direction. It really is helpful as well, particularly if you have kids. It's very helpful to sit with them and to think about how did the summer go. I would do it in an informal way. Every household is different. You may have let's describe them as slightly irritable teenagers that don't want to sit together and have a family meal and talk about how the summer went. So you might want to manage that conversation then as you're driving along, particularly teenage boys. Always helpful to be facing away, not each other. So those long drives, take the long way to Dairy Queen, take the long way to Grandma's, and have those informal chats. How did the summer go? What do you think went well? What do you think we can do differently going into the fall? Gives them a sense of control as well, and a sense of at least some direction and some information. Second concept, third, is as we move forward, is particularly for the parents out there, is helping us differentiate, really critical, by the way, particularly when it comes to parents that have strong feelings about the school situation. We must and hope to work toward differentiating our feelings from our children's feelings. They are not the same things. They're often overlapped. 60% overlap, 70% overlap, some people 80% overlap, but they aren't the same. Their experiences aren't the same. So really spending some time with ourselves, assessing how are we feeling? What exactly am I feeling? Am I feeling fear? Am I feeling sad? Am I feeling disappointment? Am I feeling anxiety? What exactly am I feeling? And really naming them out. I'm a big fan for writing things down. So if you could do that in the next week and think about 3 feelings that you're having, written down, a little bit of definition, again, calling out feelings and thoughts in ourselves gives ourselves a sense of control over those feelings. It also doesn't make them as scary when we sort of identify them, label them, and really think those through. Helping our kids then conversely with the same exact process. What feelings are you having about what's going on? This is particularly true for the little ones, even for our college kids and our adult children as well. What feelings are you having? What are you challenged with? Obviously, this kind of integrates with that summer review process. But these feeling discussions are a little bit different. They're a little on the mushy side, right? They're a little bit, in so doing though, you're teaching. And so role modeling as well, what your thoughts and feelings are, different from your child, but they're yours. Role models. Kids need role models. They need to know how to act in the world. They particularly need role models when the world seems a little scary and unpredictable and a little unsafe, as it may or may not now. So having our kids really help them identify their feelings, whether you want to do that with a board in the kitchen or in their bedroom. Naming one family that helps identify out one feeling a day early in the morning. And so they do that with their kids, and it's sort of the feeling of the day. Love that idea. Love that concept of my feeling today is sad. What does that mean? And we sort of all take a shot at defining what sad means. And also then, therefore, what impact sad has on our life. They do one a day. They go across the board. I love it. It's such a great skill builder. future therapists in that family, no doubt. No doubt. Future employees of West Bergen Mental Health Care, by the way. Conversely, the kids need to know who to go with those feelings. So as they go back into the school, they need to have a sense of who they can go to. And they may need some help with this, particularly given the situation where they may not be in school full time. There may be a hybrid. There may be a college student who goes to the dorm or goes to their apartment, but doesn't go into a classroom, is literally living in a situation with others. Helping folks, particularly our younger folks, and ourselves, by the way, know who we can go to with feelings and who we can go to with difficult situations. What we're looking for here is essentially to build the team. So for the little ones, really little, middle, high school, even into college, literally having conversation about who is on your team that helps you get through the world. This is where moms and dads, we're looking for you to model as well. And so I'd be looking for you to call out to your kids. Here's what I do. I call Aunt Jenny when I'm upset. I have Christopher around the corner that I go have a cup of coffee on their front porch with and just talk about something that might be on my mind. Maybe I have a therapist, and so maybe we're open and vulnerable in that moment by saying, yeah, and I am in therapy, so I go talk to my therapist. Helping kids, young adults, and adults really identify that we each need a team to get through life. That's why we exist in social groups typically. We exist in family as a social group, community as a social group, where you work as a social group. We need to have a social support system. The data shows us over and over and over again that the better your social support system is, the less mental illness you will suffer from over time. There's an absolute correlation there. Doesn't matter what mental illness we're talking about, whether you're describing depression or anxiety or some of the more serious ones, PTSD, not that the others aren't serious. Know that social support really lowers those symptoms and lowers when I say symptoms, the way I think about it is it lowers the impact that disorder has on your life. Let's face it, between 1 in 4 and 1 in 5 of us are going to suffer from a mental illness at some point in our lives. 1 in 4, that's a lot. Go down your street and count 1 out of every 4 houses and get that sense. 1 in 4 people in this meeting tonight, at some point, are going to suffer from mental illness. We need to have a team to get through that. And so helping ourselves and our kids identify who they can talk to, when they can talk to them, and who's on that team. If it's a sports-related kid, then talk about the team, literally. And we're describing the team and who's the coach and who's the assistant coach and who's the colleague on the team and how does that all work. It really helps people lean on each other. If we can teach our kids and ourselves how to do this, life would really be a little bit easier over time. Try it and see what happens. Concept of putting a little pressure on ourselves too as parents. So as our kids are going back to school, whether it be grammar, middle, high, college, or we have family members that are going back into work, but particularly with kids, we need to put some pressure on ourselves as parents to role model some kind of strength as we go into the day. It's not helpful to have parents that are really kind of having a hard time holding it together. Parents that have a hard time holding it together typically and often have kids at school that have a hard time holding it together. So I'm putting a little pressure on us as parents that we need to sort of hold ourselves together. The good news here is that you know how to do this. You absolutely know how to do this. Think about what'd you do when you checked Johnny in 3 years ago when he had his appendix out. You held it together in the emergency room. You held it together in the operating room. You held it together as a parent in the recovery room. How do you manage the little one when he needs to get shots when they're really little? How did you have this internal strength as a parent, and every single parent has it. They have this internal strength that comes on that's just amazing to watch, actually. Call on that strength. Remember that you have that strength and use that, particularly when the kids are going back into the school. We need to kind of hold ourselves together because remember, kids are watching everything we do. They're watching everything we say. They're really watching how we relate to the world. So it's this concept of role modeling. So it's this concept of I've had a stressful situation that I'm going through. Here's how I handled it. And so that concept of kind of being that role model for them. Similarly, I'm asking us, believe it or not, to put a little pressure on our kids. So as our kids go into the schools, middle, grammar, high, college, we're asking them to hold themselves together a little bit and to really pull on the resources that they have inside. Because make no mistake, if Johnny in row 2 starts to freak out, no doubt that row 3 and row 4 and the kid behind him and the kid in front of him, it's going to be like a wave into the class. So it's this concept of putting a little bit of pressure, remembering that kids have tremendous resources. Kids are more resilient than we think. So are adults, by the way. We are amazingly resilient. When this all began, I think we all had no idea what the world would look like and how we could get through it. And it's been a challenge, but we're really figuring some things out. Here we are tonight on a Zoom. It's a perfect example of how you've modified your work at the Upper Saddle River Library, and you've had to do something different. And here we are. It's working. So that's right. Exactly. So that pressure of putting on our kids to hold themselves together a little bit and pull it doesn't mean that I'm asking for stuffing of feelings. And I get that sometimes that's a converse and it may look a little off, or it may seem a little paradoxical. I'm asking them to experience their feelings and understand them, but to be able to hold themselves together in the moment, because we need to sort of operate in the social environment in a certain way. All right. With the little ones in particular, as we're going back into school, and I do realize that school is starting, and for some has, for others it's starting next week, and for others indeed even a month later. I've heard of a couple school districts in Bergen County that are now mid-October, from what I'm hearing, October 16, going back in. What can you do to practice going back to school today? Can you take a walk over by the school and just sort of desensitize is really what we're going for here. So can we take a walk tomorrow or Friday, Saturday, Sunday when it's really going to be lovely out? Just take a walk by the school and walk around the playground and walk around the school and have that experience of being close to it and saying, what do you think it's going to be like on Wednesday? What do you think it's going to be like in, I don't know, September 14, whenever that begins? So sometimes having those conversations when in the actual or close to what we would call in our field approximating the experience. So it's not quite the same experiences as sitting at a desk in a classroom. But if we can walk kind of by the classroom and we can pull up and walk in the school yard and walk through the school or near the school, there are feelings that will come up that we learn to master in a much calmer and quieter way. I don't want that to happen for the first time, the first day of school, when there's a lot of intensity. We're asking for these baby steps. I mean, think about the process of just sort of slowly putting yourself into a cold pool. How do you do that? Well, some people jump in the deep end of a cold pool. I do not. Some people jump in the deep end of the pool. Some people put their foot on the first step, and then they put their foot on the second step, and then they sort of slowly go into the shallow end. That's the concept we're looking for. What can you do to approximate or get close to what the actual experience is going to be? It just helps us feel better. It helps us master the environment. It will bring up, no doubt, some very interesting conversations with your kids. Know that, and I had a clinical supervisor that I loved very much, whose one phrase of advice still resonates for me when working with kids. He said, Michael, give what God gave to you a chance. 2 ears, 1 mouth. So listen. So I promise you, walking around that school, look at your kids' body language. Are they suddenly fidgety? Are they rigid, where they sort of pull back? Do they get quiet? Are they talking a lot? What are they doing? Take that in. Guarantee you, by the way, the unequivocally best therapists that kids have are the parents. Without question, you know your kids better than we will ever know your kids. I always say to a parent, what is your stomach telling you? Because trust your gut. Please trust your gut. As you walk through the school and the kid is a little bit nervous, have that conversation. And you might want to role model a little bit. Geez, I feel a little nervous being here today. It's going to be strange. It's going to be weird. It's going to be hard, maybe even. We're going to get through this. So we're always pairing that identification of the scary feeling with the reassurance. So you're adding those together. This is going to be scary. We are going to get through this together. We are going to figure out how to get through this. You've been through difficult experiences before. You had your appendix out 3 years ago, and you were scared to death, and you made it through, and you not only made it through, but you learned to love the doctor and be okay in a hospital and that kind of thing. So approximating. Reminding our kids and ourselves, by the way, no matter what the ages are, that we are going to absolutely hit turbulence, that there's not going to be a smooth process. I think this is particularly important for college students who are going back, plan to go back, and actually younger. Obviously, we all have plans. We have A days and B days and half days and C days and A weeks and B weeks. There's, you name it, there's all kinds of plans. That may all change, and I think we all know that. I fear that sometimes we're not communicating that to our kids, though, as well. So it's this concept of talking to our kids about the ability to quickly pivot, to quickly change. We did this in March. We can do this if it happens. And so that concept of just knowing that we're going to hit turbulence, reminding them that we did fly to grandma's in Florida and we did hit turbulence. We got there, though. We absolutely got there, even if we hit turbulence. We are going to hit turbulence. We all know that. So it's a matter of kind of how we deal with that and not being caught off guard. Similar flexibility, similar concept of making sure that we talk to our kids about being flexible, about the ability to change, the ability to pivot. Same kind of thing. One is sort of the information that changes. The second is, what do you need to make that work? We need flexibility. We need the ability to shift gears, shift lanes, pivot, however you want to describe it. But I honestly think if you sat with your child and your children, whether we're talking about children that are 25 or 15 or 5, if you really talked about it, you guys have pivoted many times in life for many reasons, whether there was an unemployment reason or there was an illness of grandma and grandpa, or whether there was something that happened in the house. You all have pivoted and you know how to do this, and the kids know how to do this. They just don't always kind of think about it as a concept. And so it's this ability to pick, again, one concept per conversation, not overwhelming ourselves or our kids, and really kind of going forward around that. Being gentle with ourselves, really important. So whatever reactions you're having as an adult or as a child or as a parent, really accepting those feelings, accepting that, yes, I'm feeling angry at the school district because A, B, and C. Or I'm feeling angry at the situation, the local officials aren't being as clear as they can about how they're going to manage it. I feel angry about that. I feel upset by that. But being gentle with ourselves, always a good reminder to do that. Lastly, as we kind of think through reminding ourselves and our kids, no matter what age they are, that we are not alone in this process. There is a lot of power in the fact that we're all in the same boat. So every school district is working toward reunification. Every college is working toward doing what they're doing. Every employer wants to get you back to work. Trust me, they're working at it. And we're all together. This concept of we're all in the same boat. So that concept of feeling of, okay, this is hard, but I'm not alone. It's not me. It's not something about me. Critical, by the way, particularly for middle age and younger, because you want to make sure that they're not internalizing it, that this is about them. And I know that sounds like a stretch, and you couldn't think, oh, that's crazy. There's no way they would think that. Trust me, kids, lots of magical thinking. They connect things that don't necessarily belong together. And so really needing to call it out for what it is, in that we are not alone in this whole process. Lastly, similar question as we come into the half-hour mark here. What can the Upper Saddle River Library and the West Bergen Mental Health Cares and the school system and the other wonderful organizations that are out there, what can we do for you? What more can we do to help you get through this? We're certainly all doing the best we can. We've got lots of ideas. We're doing lots of talks. We have lots of clinicians that'll talk to you no matter what, anytime, anywhere, any place. But I always ask the question, because inevitably someone in the community has an idea for the library or an idea for the West Bergen Mental Health Cares. Here's how you can help us in the community. I did a talk the other day to the Westwood Senior Group. What a great group! Wow, they were a lively group, and the one during the Q&A, one of the ladies who I thought at least visually looked to be of the older crew in that group said to me that really West Bergen should have an open support group for seniors that they could dial in on Zoom. And I thought, God, I never thought of that. that is such a great idea, because we're so formal and we have clinicians and we have process and she said, no. We just want to stop into a group once a week and talk about how we're feeling and learn some skills. And I thought, there you go. And she was answering the question, what can I do for you? In that moment that a new group is born, I think, at West Bergen. So I really do put that out there. I know that that the whole crew at the Upper Saddle River Library and all the community groups, the community is just a wonderful place of groups together that kind of quietly do their thing. We're doing a much better job, I think, of partnering and working together. This tonight is just a wonderful example of that. What more can we do for you, and how can we help you is really the question of the day. So with that, I will open to any questions you might have, or any comments or feedback or ideas.
I would actually, I'm going to chime in and say I absolutely do agree. I think everybody has my email from the Zoom invitation. And,
Sure.
and we're trying to find out what the community wants and needs. And I said this a little bit before too, the silver lining of doing everything virtual is now we have this great access.
Right.
To you and access to others that can really help out. So
absolutely.
I had muted people. If you would like to ask a question, you can unmute yourself and ask Michael. You can also, like I said, if you want to post in the chat, you could do it privately to just the host if you see in the chat, or to the group. It's up to you. And I see Michael, he gave his information and Barbara's information as well in the group chat. I did have a question in the group chat. What's your advice for having a positive outlook for the fall when it seems like it's not going to be any better from the summer? And we kind of broached on this too. We're these little, we in March, we made it to June.
We did.
And all of a sudden we were told, no, now it's going to be in the summer. Okay, we made it to the summer.
Right.
And now we made it to September. And how much farther? You got to keep going on this cycle,
You're right. It's one of the more challenging things, even emotionally and psychologically, because I think all of us can agree that we can go through a difficult situation for a period of time, as long as we know what that period of time is, right? We can very easily get like, all right, this is going to be dreadful. I can do this for a month. I see the light at the end of the tunnel. Mm-hmm. We're really challenged in this situation because the line keeps moving back. So what we thought was going to be a couple of weeks went to a couple of months, and here we are busily and quickly heading into the fall. And so how we do that is just a great question. I would break it down. So what I would think about is by season, probably, because that's sort of a concept that we all understand. How can we get through the fall? What's our plan to get through the fall? Doesn't mean this is going to be over in the fall. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting that we might feel better if we develop a plan for ourselves, for our kids, our family plan for how we're going to get through the fall. So that's going to mean school, whatever that looks like. What do we enjoy doing in the fall that might be actually still doable? Do we take safe, obviously socially distant drives to see leaves? Do we go pick some pumpkins? Sounds pretty safe out there. Are there things that we can do that get us through the season step by step by step? And just knowing that we're going to have to evaluate each time. Everyone keeps talking about sort of getting to 2021. Okay, yeah, I'm not exactly sure what's going to be different on January 15th of 2021 that's different than today, other than the potentiality for a vaccine, which certainly, if you're carefully watching the news, it's brewing. There's stuff happening without question. I'm not sure we're going to be ready in January of 2021, but I'm reassured personally that it's going on. That may help others. But a family plan for the season. a fall plan, a winter plan, a spring plan. It really just breaks it down into a finite amount of time. And obviously activities that we can do in the fall, we can't do in the winter and spring. So just a thought. Sure, go ahead.
Oh, I don't know. So I had another question in the chat. I don't know if somebody.
And I see a hand as well. Yep.
Okay. Let them go.
Oh, do you have it? First of all, thank you so much, Linda, for organizing this. It's really great. And Upper Saddle River Library turned on a dime with this. They were extraordinary with online for the kids and for adults as well. So, thank you.
Yeah, thumbs up.
So the question I have is confession here. I am a hugger.
Okay.
So something that has been very challenging for me. Certainly I have a family of 4 and we can hug each other as much as we want because we're, just in one unit. But I have found it very, very challenging, especially friends who have lost family members to COVID, or when I see people social distance with masks on. What are the long-term ramifications of not expressing physical friendship? Of course we can do it, but it's very awkward. It's like, I can't believe I can't hug you to comfort you right now, or vice versa if I'm sad,
Yep. Great question, particularly because lots of people are huggers out there that connect. And it's an example of how we connect in different ways, right? I may connect more verbally. You may connect more by touch. We all connect. Here's so 2 suggestions. One is what I've been doing, which is I sort of call it out in the moment. Say, all right, I'm going. It was great to see you. Mental hug, right? So in this moment that I'm sending you that message of kind of mental hug, I'm saying goodbye. I'm having that vision of what it would be like to touch you and vision of what it would be like to hug you. I'm also sending the receiver a good amount of information about how I'm feeling, which is really what you're trying to do, right? You're trying to communicate a thought or a feeling to them. So absolutely doing that. One school district that we work with, and we work a lot in schools at West Bergen. We have lots of therapists in the different schools. And one school, I thought this was just really brilliant. A teacher brought this up. They are concerned about, this was grammar school, lots of hugging going on in grammar school. So they are coming up with a symbol or a sign that the whole school is going to know equates to a hug. So it may be a little picture of something, or it may be a word, but they're going to have it be uniform throughout that school, that this word equates to hug. A little bit like my mental hug, but they're going to do it in a much more creative and cute way. So something that we can do it. The most important thing is that you send the message to the receiver, to me, as we wrap up our conversation, or as we wrap up a cup of coffee or a walk. So just calling it out. I liked how you said it, just sort of saying it like, this is frustrating for me. I would be giving you a hug in this moment. And so this is really frustrating for me. That just calls it out and calls it for what it is. I experience that as the emotional connection that you're attempting to do. Is it the full emotional connection? No. But do I get the feeling that you're trying to send me? Absolutely, without question. So it's transitioning from that hug part to verbal. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Okay, like I said, I'm off on mute now. So I did have something in the chat. I personally do air hugs. We like
hugs. I like that.
and far apart, and we hug each other in the air. Mm-hmm. But there was a question in the group chat of sometimes one person maybe get designated in the friend group as the caretaker, and everybody constantly goes to the caretaker with their issues that they're dealing with. How can that caretaker sometimes let it be known maybe it's a little too much on them?
Sure. Yes, and this was this certainly is a concept that is pre-COVID, right? So we all have different roles in our lives, and we all have different personalities, and some of us are better listeners than others, and some of us give better hugs than others, and some of us do things that have people connect. And you're right, in typical friend groups, while we're talking about kids or adults, particularly adults, there's always that friend that sort of everyone comes to, right? And sort of they're the sponge that absorbs that everything that people think and feel. And so wanting to build some boundaries around that, that person can be a little bit clearer that two things. One, that they also have issues and concerns. Often the person that everyone goes to has a very hard time verbalizing that they also have problems and concerns, and because they feel like they need to be the strong one, right? So in this group, I need to be the therapist here, right? So we're presenting tonight. I have to be the therapist. I can't go into my own concern about whatever. It just doesn't feel comfortable for me, but I should, right? In that moment of vulnerability, particularly when people are coming to you all the time, you need to be able to speak up and need to push yourself actually to speak up and say, I also have concerns. Would it be okay for me to share that with you? Sometimes I'm a little overwhelmed that everyone's coming to me and I don't have anywhere to go. That's more my concern usually with the person in that group dynamic, is that they don't have anywhere to go. Not necessarily that people are overwhelming them. It's that people overwhelm them and they sit with it. And it is difficult to take in information. We train about this as therapists. Where do you go with that? What impact does that have on sort of your head and your heart and your relationships and your own world? Lots of study and lots of processing around that. But I think what that person needs is a voice more than anything else. They need someone to go to so that it balances a little bit. So that it's not like this all the time. We want to go a little bit like this. Hard. It really is hard. We can all make a list right now. If we said in all our friend groups, who is that person that you identified? It would take 10 seconds for everyone to just call it out right now. So interesting. Very interesting question. Very, very interesting question. Yeah. Could be a whole talk on that. That's a whole hour.
Like, I mean, as the parent, we expect to do that for our kids, but like especially in adult friend groups. And again, it's just the navigating from what's going on in this world, you know, they don't necessarily have that extra one. There is always that one person. Yes,
indeed. And many years from now, they're going to be an employee of West Bergen Mental Health Care as a therapist.
I also found it interesting too when you said about the news. I found that I've had to stop with all the binge watching that everybody's been that we've all been doing. Certain shows, the same thing too. Certain shows can have a lingering effect as well.
Yes, very much so.
Very conscious thing that I've been trying to do of, it was fine to binge watch all these heavy shows before, but now in this time, I think it's having a similar effect too.
Just not feeling okay for you. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. It's sort of like what I could have watched a year ago versus what I want to watch now.
You're really self-aware enough to know that, so you're going to make choices.
It took a while.
It's interesting you say that, Linda, because my daughters who are in their mid-20s are watching Friends.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
They're not watching the heavy-duty stuff, and that's their relaxation time. And so go back to Friends or How I Met Your Mother and stuff.
Yes, absolutely. Those are good choices though, because you're right. And truly, if you watch the heavy stuff and you feel it, you emotionally experience it, there really are chemicals get fired in your brain that would be long lasting and may sit with you for a couple of hours at least. So smart move.
So does anybody else have any questions? Or like I said, if you want to put it in the chat.
And certainly our contact information is there. We realize, given our topic, that not everyone is comfortable doing that in front of everyone. And
I also added my own cell phone number. So if anyone's feeling as though they would like to contact us or me, please feel free to do that. And I would welcome that. I'm certainly happy to facilitate or help in any way that I can.
Okay, great. And I will also, as I said before, I will do a follow-up email with this to give everybody that information. I have recorded this. I will also give you the link to go back into on our YouTube page, the Upper Saddle River Library. Again, another thing that we had to figure out how to do was make a YouTube page. Not followed by a lot, but if you know it's there, you can find it. But again, because I have Michael's, what we've done before in the June, what you said too, your tips and your strategies, it's helpful, even though I've written it down, sometimes to go back and to really listen what it was that you meant. So
Sure.
I will give that link to everybody else, as well as it will be on the Upper Saddle River Library YouTube page.
Oh, nice. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting us. Thank you for.
Thank you very much. And
part of the
thank
process.
you very much for coming again. Again, this was a great, I'm glad this partnership has come up through this time. It's really so helpful.
Let's keep talking and see what else we can work on.
Absolutely. Linda, we are always here for you.
Valleys.
Yes, yes, very much so, very much so.
We'll all get through this together, and that's the wonderful thing about community. And I'm so glad that you came to us, and you and I have established this great relationship. So, and you're a Lehigh grad, so there you go. So, you know, we'll continue to do check-ins, right?
Yes,
Yes.
Absolutely. Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I am getting all wonderful feedback from people. So
Very nice.
again, thank you very much. And thank you for everybody too that is attending. And what Michael said before too, we really do all just want to try to help each other out. And you letting us help makes me feel better, right?
Yes,
You
indeed.
feel that too.
Absolutely.
If you can help somebody, it makes you feel better.
Absolutely.
Without question. Yep, absolutely. Great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And by the way, Nicole, 10 points up for being the farthest person away on our Zoom.
Hey, Nicole, where are you? I didn't hear that. I came in after you said that.
I'm in San Francisco right now.
Oh, there you go. Oh, okay, so I got that part.
So she had a
Now I get it.
transition.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. Amazing. Wonderful.